Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Anthony Harling. I'm going to be just comparing the discussion today. It's great to have with us today two experts who understand quite a lot about AI and the work of executive search. Andrew Quinn is the Chief Technology Officer for Ezekia, and Angel Ivanov is the head of the migration team for Ezekia. And we're going to talk about AI in executive search, some of the things that are currently happening with AI, some things that we see coming down the track in the foreseeable future, and also what are some of the long-term implications for AI in executive search. The idea is that we're going to spend about half an hour discussing those topics between us. If you have any questions, please do use the Q&A button and send us your questions at any time. And we'll make sure to allow it plenty of time at the end for answering those questions. So without further ado, Andrew, let me ask you, you've been in this industry for quite a few years now. You've seen a lot of the different technologies that various search firms are deploying. What do you see as current status of AI in executive search? What are people doing?
A good question. Certainly, I've seen an increase in the sophistication. I mean, I speak with firms on a daily basis. I would say I talk to firms on multiple times a day about AI. And definitely over the past 6 months, 9 months, then the level of questions, the sophistication of the questions has increased. Certainly, there was a lot of misconception in the early time, as it was throughout the industry. But now the search firms in general are, understanding I guess, the limitations of AI, and they're asking questions which are more relevant to, where they are in their current business process and what they're trying to do. So I think it's maturing quickly. I think we're seeing, in terms of what can they integrate, what can they achieve, that's all changing. We can discuss some of that, but certainly the early stages of the recruitment process, candidate matching, some of the basic automations, they're well understood. And firms are now looking and investigating ways where they can take it to the next level.
Angel, can I ask you what kind of AI tools are people using? Have we got beyond ChatGPT? And if so, what are some of the tools that people are using in executive search?
Well, of course, ChatGPT and of course all the other models they're using like Gemini and the other ones like Grok, of course, they're most common. People are getting used to them and they use them on a daily basis. But of course, some very specific tools are getting their way in, like specific engines, like Manus, for example, that are doing some specific stuff. You can train it and can fine tune it to do some things for you. It can show you the way of reasoning. It can show you what to do. So yes, these tools are getting their way in, and they're getting more and more popular for some specific things. And something else I've seen as well, some search firms are using their own data to train their models and to use it for their own private interaction. They're using only their own data. They limit their models inside there to use it for their work, which is actually great.
I mean, Angel's team, he focuses on getting people onto the Zika platform, and in doing so, often he gets involved in their business process rather than just the pure data. So we are seeing, firms talking to third parties. There's a few out there who are doing more than just say ChatGPT. So you have, for example, Hello Sky. They're looking at how to rank candidates, how to map out sectors and so forth. So these are kind of specialized companies who are looking at AI in this industry and looking to integrate with platforms, as part of this business process.
Is it primarily focused around the candidate identification at this stage, Andrew?
I would say that has been a focus. I think, like I say, this is the early stages of the entire process. So candidate matching, taking job specifications, trying to match those with people. That's kind of the common questions we hear just now. However, I am seeing a shift now towards, say, business development. How do we actually use our data that previously was only used for candidate matching, how do we use that data in other ways? Because AI is much more powerful than the tools that they used before, which were keyword matching, Boolean type matching. With AI, obviously, you have sentiment analysis. You have your semantic searches, so you can actually analyze your data in different ways. And people are waking up, if you like, to the fact that they actually have a rich set of data. All these 10, 20 years worth of data that they've collected actually has value, which is much more than just simply trying to find the next candidate.
Andrew,
Okay.
sorry to interrupt. I just want to mention something in this relation. Actually, a lot of people are now using the AI tools exactly for this to sorry to be able to identify some different things. Communication in natural language helps a lot. With people who are more techie, they don't need some database skills. They just can tell their models or their tools what they want, and they get some reports. They get some analysis and some evaluations, which were impossible to do maybe a year before that. And people from search firms which are more into technology, they're more interested into this. Now it's much easier for them to get these things.
I guess there's different approaches here that people can take, because some firms will be encouraging innovation and allowing everybody in the firm to do whatever they want with whatever tools they want. Others firms will be maybe trying to centralize and just using certain tools and stuff like that. What's your experience, Andrew? What's the tendency? Is it more one way or the other, or is it a bit of both?
It is a bit of both. I'm actually still surprised to see some of our clients, our firms that work with us who have the AI side disabled. Now, there'll be reasons for that, regulatory reasons, maybe they're concerned about privacy reasons or whatever they might be. But we are finding a mix there. I think that's changing, So I think I would say more than half of the firms are now using AI actively. But even with it switched on, I think once they've enabled it and once they're engaging with it, there's still a learning curve which takes time. And understanding how to use that with their data is still a kind of a path we have to help them navigate.
Is it fair to say that in terms of the tools that they're using in that search execution phase, that really pretty much everybody nowadays has to be aware of the AI tools available and start thinking about how they can use those tools?
Well, yes, I mean you have to nowadays. I mean it's the data, the if you like the analysis of how they're talking about AI can increase the time to or decrease time to fill by like 30% to 50%. So you'd be crazy to ignore using these tools to optimize your searches, to find candidates faster, to automation. I think is a big thing. So one of the things we're seeing now is with ChatGPT, people are used to engaging with a chatbot type experience, but that's very ad hoc. When you want to do something, you then engage with the chat. And we're seeing an increase in automation in AI. So they're using platforms where AI can be used to automate the process rather than just engaging as and when you need it. And I think with the automation, then that's also improving, the execution and the efficiency of finding candidates at the early stage.
I mean, there's clearly a risk in terms of GDPR. One of our listeners talks about the GDPR implications, and their firm is obviously concerned about the GDPR aspect to this, because if you're uploading data into into a chat GPT or whatever, then you're effectively sharing that data with everybody on the internet, aren't you?
No, Angel. I mean, the answer is it
No.
depends. It depends on
It depends.
It depends on what you're using.
I can reply actually.
Yeah,
Here
sure.
you have option here. We follow all strict security protocols and privacy protocols. You can expose your data if you want to the world, but if you don't want to do it, you can just capsulate it, put it close, and just to to use it for your own needs. You can close it and don't expose it. Use your own model for training.
Well, there's two ways. One is you can use your own model, as Angel says. The second approach is if, for example, if you're using OpenAI, which is the kind of ChatGPT parent company, there is a simple form you fill out. Now, Ezekia users, we give them the link, we tell them what to do. But if you're not using Ezekia, then there is a way of filling out a form with OpenAI, and then you're telling them not to use your data for training purposes. So it will be kept private to your OpenAI account. So either build your own model, which requires some technical experience, or use OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, but tell them that you don't want them to use the training. And there's a form you fill out. It's a data processing agreement form. And once you've done that, you're sorted. And they actually say if you have a business account, a team account, then they will do that automatically for you.
Now, within the Ezekia product, you've obviously tried AI in different parts of the business. And where are you currently using AI, and what difference does it make to people?
Yeah, so we've been, in fact, Ezekia has been using AI for many, many years now. We started doing hand building, hand crafting our own machine learning modules, and early adopters of the Ezekia platform see that with candidates like this, or email prediction, or we would do some data enrichment. But as the industry has evolved and the generative AI, the large language models have appeared, we've now also integrated that in everywhere. So wherever you are within Ezekia, at the moment, I'll talk about what we're doing next. But at the moment, you can summarize profiles, you can get answers, and so forth. It's your standard AI now. It's what people expect, to be able to improve something, summarize something, create something. That's all there. For example, you can now create company records by searching the internet, or people records and so forth, and enrich them as well. So that's all there. Where it's heading, though, I think, is there is a big demand for business development rather than just, say, candidate finding, candidate matching, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so in terms of what a product roadmap might look like with AI, then we were going through a transition ourselves. So very soon releasing business development insights, where you'll be able to, we already have it, but we're going to be exposing it in a more visible way, where you can analyze your relationship, sentiment analysis it's called. So you'll be able to see at a glance how good, how strong your relationship with that client is. We will offer you, suggested next steps. We'll analyze all the notes, see who your most active engagers are. Are you dropping the ball anywhere? What steps, what to-dos we'll create for you in order for you to then maintain that relationship and keep it healthy. And so you'll be able to analyze, who your best customers are, who you're struggling with, where your pain points are. So that's one of the strengths of AI, is to analyze your data rather than just, match candidates. So you'll see that's quite a common theme.
So is it fair to say that, where we are now is that people are using AI effectively kind of in the candidate identification, in that early stage of the execution of the search process? That's predominantly where it's using, but you see the next stage of development being more around the business development and the client relationship.
Exactly. You have that data. It already exists. But with AI, as you mentioned earlier, the natural language side of things allows you to query that in a different way that you couldn't do before. So before, you were restricted to keywords and Boolean type searches. Now you can just ask it a question and it will analyze that information. It will take your data, package it up, send it off to AI, and analyze that in conjunction with the rest of the data on the internet, and come back with an answer, such as, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are. So that's all possible now. But where is it heading in the future? I'm sure we'll come on to that. But we talked earlier, before we started, this about agentic AI. We can go a bit into that at some point when that makes sense. But certainly, it's a rapidly evolving industry, and I think one of the dangers firms face is maybe trying to do too much at once. Maybe trying to undertake large AI infrastructure type projects, because they will be left behind, because it's changing so rapidly. Anything you do today will be out of date in 6 months' time still. There's still a lot of changing, moving parts now. So really, I would exercise some caution, experiment with some niche products out there, and see what kind of results you get, and slowly introduce AI into your entire process rather than trying to change everything at once.
I mean, one of the things I remember, having worked with a very large firm, Heidrick & Struggles, many years ago, there were people all over the firm that had information, and the problem that we had was trying to sort of pull that information from all these different sources internally within the firm, but also externally trying to kind of get these information sources together. So I guess there's a lot of opportunity in terms of analyzing the notes that people are making in the Ezekia system. I don't know, what are some of the technologies that you see around, and where do you think people will be using that in the near future?
Well, that's pretty standard now. That's already out there, So analyzing notes, because your researcher notes are your gold mine, if you like. Your profile, where they work, and so forth. That's just basic information. Where the real data is hidden in the notes. It's hidden in the emails. It's hidden in the meeting agendas. And so with AI, you've got a lot more power to kind of take that data and bring it together into one place and then analyze that. So definitely that's an area where people are exploiting the data now.
And is that something that Ezekia is doing today? Is that something you will be
Yeah,
doing?
yeah. No, that's something you can do today. And really, like I say, the next step is then using that data and analyzing it in order to help you with, what's your next step with this client moving forward.
Angel, when you're bringing new clients onto the Ezekia platform, do they understand the tools that are available, and do they use the tools that are available to do some of these things that Andrew's talking about?
Most of them do already. Not 100% of most of them. I'm quite aware. They even ask questions. I keep
Mhm.
receiving these requests. As Andrew mentions, please don't use our data for training models,
Yeah.
which we of
Yeah.
course we don't do anything like this. So yeah, they're quite aware. They know what to expect. And as Andrew mentions, we would like to add the next step if possible, so they can use their data, because a lot of them have data like 30, 35 years of data with notes and everything. It's really a gold mine for them. They can use it to train their own models, like limited in their own space. And this could help him in every possible way, from identifying candidates, pursuing the process, optimizing the business process, also business development, everything.
So there's a great opportunity in terms of mining the existing internal data. What about some of the external data sources, the data sources that people haven't really got to grips with yet? What trends do you see in the future in terms of how people are accessing other sources of data, Andrew?
Well, in my opinion, I mean, the data sources have always been there. These large language models have been trained on the internet as a whole, the public information. So it's not like there's new data sources out there all of a sudden because of AI. What AI does is allow you to query it, question it in a different way, in a more, intuitive way. So it's not so much about is there more data we have access to. It's working with third parties and who allow you to then query that data in a way that makes sense to your business. And I think one of the kind of other changes or other directions we're all heading in is being more open, having platforms which are more open. So rather than having a system which is monolithic and enclosed and proprietary, then you need to have an open platform where different systems can talk to each other. So for Ezekia, we have an open AI. There's a concept called MCP appearing. It's a way for AI systems to talk to each other, a protocol called MCP, where AI systems can talk to each other.
Mhm.
And so all these things you'll be able to do where you can plug in different systems. So even on ChatGPT, you'll be able to query Ezekia and ask questions of your Ezekia data while in ChatGPT. Or if you're using a third-party platform, like even if you're in Microsoft Word or Excel, you'll be able to access your data directly through this kind of concept called the MCP protocol. That's a relatively new protocol. It's being rapidly adopted by most firms, including Ezekia. You'll see that available in Ezekia next month. But certainly having an open platform where different platforms, different AI systems can talk to you and analyze your data or provide more data is the way forward.
And I guess that, internally from your point of view, it changes the focus a little bit in terms of some in your R&D. But I know that Ezekia has a very strong relationship with the clients where you're constantly getting feedback and working on problems that are presented to you by the clients. But has it changed your focus over the last year or so in terms of how you're deploying your R&D resources?
Yeah, so like I say, we've been doing AI for many years, but
Mhm.
certainly in the last year, and in particularly in the last 6 months, we now have a dedicated AI team, which probably accounts for 20 to 30% of our overall resources. So
Yeah.
it has kind of forced us, but in a good way, to focus our resources on making sure that we're staying in line with the curve or trying to stay ahead of the curve to make, with AI. So it's certainly given us a focus there. And we've got a lot of stuff happening in the future around that.
When it comes to the very top level C-suite searches, often we're searching for a candidate who's probably pretty well known in her industry or his industry, and therefore I wonder if the AI is being used differently in those kind of situations. We have a question here from one of the search firms, because I guess there's a lot of public information about the CEO of XYZ Corporation, and you can find out a lot about that person's background. Does it change the way we can use AI in that kind of situation?
I think this is a very interesting question, because on the surface you might just say, well, it's public information. You can consume it and make your own decisions based on that person's public profile today without AI.
Yeah.
But I think with AI you can start to analyze the underlying kind of personality, or compare it to. So, for example, there's platforms out there that will look at individuals and they'll be able to predict their career trajectory. Is this
Okay.
person going to be suitable for maybe moving to a new industry? And that's the kind of thing where AI is quite powerful, is that they could predict or analyze people, compare them to similar people in other industries, and say, yes, this person could transition from this sector to that sector in this type of role because their career trajectory allows for that, their experience. So AI can help in that way, be over and above just analyzing the public stuff that's available.
If
AI
you're
is subjective. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. AI is objective. I mean, so it could help, and the more information it has, the better, of course, because it could help with more analysis. And here, the best results, according to what I have seen by now, is working together with a human researcher, so they can help each other, the AI agent and the human researcher, to identify the proper process. But indeed, these C-type candidates have more information about them, and the AI is being objective could help more in this case.
Yeah, and you could nurture long-term relations, so you could track their careers, and AI would automate that whole process of tracking their careers over time. So, you identify somebody that could be suitable, and then, you could have AI automatically tracking their careers and triggering some kind of alert to you to say, now's the time for this particular type of action to take place.
But surely you can also then, find other people who've got a similar characteristic or a similar profile. But particularly, when we're doing these very senior level searches, we're looking for somebody who has maybe handled similar problems, but in a different industry. And so the trick is trying to know where to look, which industry should we be looking in. But I guess the AI tools will help us to do that very, very quickly, to look across multiple industries for people who've dealt with similar problems to the one that, your client is facing today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's its strength, is it understands how different industries might be related, what the common factors are, where the pain points might be, and it just allows you to do it quicker. And as Angel said, we're not replacing the intuition-based type decision making that humans make. What we're doing is we're augmenting it with science, predictive type science, in order to kind of give you a much more powerful approach to finding these right people.
There are a lot of correlations. Sorry again, I'm interrupting too much. There are a lot of correlations which are visible to the AI, which are not visible to people, just because we cannot process billions and millions of records at once. But AI can provide you with some insights which are unavailable for you.
Okay, so that's a really useful aspect of it. I want to just touch for a moment on the sort of the long-term future, and what maybe some of the things that we haven't thought about today, where maybe the technology is not yet developed. So whether that's in the candidate assessment, or it's in the client relationship management, or the business development phase, or whatever. Angel, can you tell me about sort of some of the areas where you think there will be a future impact for AI, but we're just not seeing it yet?
Well, this is a very good question, because there is a term in statistics. It's called black swan, which means this is some event which you cannot predict because it never happened before. What I think is that the development is going to be towards the direction of general artificial intelligence. So it is going to be more like human reasoning, but with a lot of powerful options to analyze data. So what is going to happen in the future, most probably, is that it will give you better and better approach. It can be used to tune your personal AI to yourself, so it can perform much more tasks than you. And in the end, you ending up just making decisions. It's like, in software development, maybe there are some predictions at the moment that we're the last generation that is going to code, and the next generation is just going to tell the AI, do this and do that. It's going to be the same with the executive search. Maybe we're the last generations where executive researchers are going to use their heads, type some questions and some things, and in the future they're just going to tell them with a natural language, do this for me, find this candidate, do this, make this analysis. They're just going to interact like this. I believe that more technology is going to be involved, like sensor technologies, like VRs, everything like this is going to be more interactive. And speaking is not far away. I believe it's going to, in the next few years, maybe. Just other than typing, you're going to speak and tell your agent what to do. Find this agent. So maybe the direction is going to be the interaction. It's going to be much easier and will allow the researchers to focus on their just the most important part, the decision making.
Yeah, you see it's happening already. I mean, every meeting you're on now, there's a half a dozen note takers appearing on your Zoom meeting or your Teams meeting. And this is just the beginning of that process that Angel's talking about. There's going to be a lot more automation for taking notes, for replying to emails, for whatever, scheduling your meetings, for creating your tasks, making sure they're automatically prioritized. Today, we're at the early stages where it's still a bit manual. You still have to make sure you invite the note taker. You then just have to make sure it's integrated into your Ezekia platform or whichever platform, and all your notes are updated. So there's still a lot of manual plumbing going on, but you'll see that slowly kind of dissolving away into the background. And as Angel says, you'll be interacting more naturally. And I think the way that we engage with software as a whole is going to be one of the big changes we see over the coming years. For example, with agentic AI, where you have distributed systems which are specialized, which are talking to each other, then there's less need for you to be glued to a screen 100% of the time in order for you to do your job. When you are, for example, you could be in a meeting with your colleagues in a physical room or online, and behind the scenes, AI will be tracking the whole conversation. And then by the end of the meeting, rather than you going and analyzing your notes, doing your target company lookup, trying to find the candidates, AI in the background could potentially just at the end of the meeting say, I've listened to what you've said, here's your shortlist. Okay. And, so this I think is still quite far away, but I think all this automation that's happening now, all this kind of making AI more personal and more actually, once we begin to trust it, I suppose, and it becomes more invasive into our day-to-day interactions and we allow that to happen, then we can get to the next level of automation, which will allow us to just carry on with our lives, if you like, talk to the people we need to talk to, and behind the scenes, AI and software will take over and sort out all the minor details.
So in terms of the candidate identification, there's quite a lot being done in that area already, but there's a potential to do more, I think, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because right now you still have to go to a platform, you still have to tell it, upload your job description, you still have to, and then you still have to take the results and put them into another platform, wherever it might be, like Ezekia, and then you have to start. So I think that kind of stuff can be fully automated. These platforms will still exist, but they'll be fully automated behind the scenes.
And in terms of the process management, that will be much, much easier effectively to automate and to basically smooth that whole executive search process management. And then we're seeing a more impact potentially then in terms of the business development, how we focus our business development activity, which sort of clients in which industries and stuff like that. And then the bit, I guess, that we don't really know is what's the candidate assessment going to look like in the future, and how is AI going to impact the candidate assessment? That's, I guess, the area that we don't really understand very much about.
I think there's issues there already, and so I think the next stage there, Angel and I were discussing this previously, where it needs to be self-regulated in some way, because candidates are using AI to apply for hundreds of jobs at the same time. Executive researchers are using AI to analyze. It's just got out of control slightly. So I think it's almost saturated, and so now we need to regulate that or self-regulate that, so that otherwise AI starts getting in the way of finding good candidates.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge we're facing. We adopt AI, we use AI to the extreme, and then it starts getting in the way of what we're trying to achieve.
And
That's why I believe that. Sorry again. That's why I believe that AI will never replace fully the executive researchers, because the final decision is going to be very, very important, to be made by a human. As Andrew mentioned, there are already some challenges we face. For example, the biases. A lot of models are biased, like location bias, name bias, education bias, or whatever. Everything like this, ethnicity bias, even, or male-female bias.
Mm-hmm.
So these things, we're already working on them, but these are challenges that keep appearing. So again, the human interaction, the human final decision making is going to be inevitable.
So the regulations are kicking, and regulations will start kicking in. Obviously, we're seeing that in government level. That'll start filtering down, just like GDPR was brewing for many years, and then it was implemented. We'll have AI regulations which we'll need to start paying attention to and adopting within our platforms.
So I don't think the industry will be smaller in terms of the number of people that we employ, but I guess from what you're saying, it's going to be a different kind of job for the people doing the candidate research and for the partners who are leading those client relationships and doing the candidate assessment. It's going to require a lot more understanding of the tools that are available, and you're going to have to be really smart at using those tools. Would you agree with that assessment, Andrew?
Yeah, I think there needs to be, and I think it's already happening, to be fair, but whether it's people, out of their own free will, just investigating what AI can do for them. But certainly there needs to be upskilling within companies to make sure that everybody's capable of using these technologies to the fullest. I mean, even within our own company, we're predominantly developers, and I know that there are some developers who use AI just a little, some who use it a lot, and that needs to kind of change so that everybody's using it at its most. So, and it's true for every industry. You have to upskill and make sure that your team are adopting the best tools possible to get the job done.
I'm sure that in the past couple of years, you've heard, and all of our participants have heard this thing that AI is going to take your job. Well, it's not going to take your job, but somebody who uses AI better than you is going to take your job, most probably.
Yeah. So it's going to be different people essentially, but probably the same number of people or more people actually.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunity is there really to, do faster, better searches, but maybe more creative searches as well with a higher success rate. It's just going to require a different deployment of the technology that's available.
Yeah, like I say, we're in the early stages. I mean, and in fact, I'm not entirely sure that we fully understand where AI will take us in the near future. And what I mean by that is, this is not my quote, but from somebody at IBM. So when we were first introduced to the internet, what did we use it for? Companies quickly put brochure websites up, marketing websites. But it wasn't until we realized the power of the internet, e-commerce, dynamic applications, social media, whatever it was, that's when the power of the internet became clear. The same with smartphones. When they were introduced, everybody tried to build their existing computer software, minimize it onto a smartphone. But the real power of smartphones was very much, mobile first, whether that be, using the GPS technology, the phone technology, the location, whatever it might be. It was all about coming up with smartphone type applications. And with AI, everybody is now layering AI over the existing applications, and that's what's happening today. But I think that's changing now with agentic AI and with software being designed AI first. You'll see these changes taking place where we'll begin to understand, actually, we're now going to engage with AI and software in a very different way in the coming months and years.
So does agentic AI mean that we might be using multiple different AI tools, but with some sort of agentic layer on top of it, trying to
yes, in general, agentic AI is a way of, because right now you have, for instance, if you use ChatGPT, you're using OpenAI, that's one large language model. It's the entire internet generalized and searchable. With agentic AI, it allows you to split the knowledge base down into smaller experts. And so you might have, and then it's called small, another way of looking at it is small language models rather than large language models.
Yeah.
They're much quicker, they're more responsive. You can train them differently. So, for example, if you had a agent which was all about regulations and legal stuff, then you would never want it to hallucinate. You would never want it to make a guess. So you would tweak the parameters of that so that it was always truthful. It would never guess. It would never say, I don't know, or it would always just find the fact, give you the fact. Likewise, but on the other extreme, business development type agents, you want them to take a guess at stuff. You want them to kind of predict or analyze and come up with some trends, whether they're accurate or not. You could decide for yourself, but certainly you want to train those in a different way. So agentic AI is all about taking the problem and breaking it down into smaller problems, and using AI in a more specialized way, and training them in different ways, and then orchestrating their results. So you could ask the question of all your agents, and they could come back with slightly different answers, and then you would work out which is the overall best answer. So that's the kind of
I've got
principle
lots
behind
of
it.
questions here, which I want to run through. So I'm going to ask
Sure.
you each to give like a quick answer. Angel, maybe you can answer this for me. Can we use AI to query notes in Ezekia? Is that possible today, or will that be possible in the future?
Yes, it's already there. We can do this already.
So it's already there. And what about using AI to find candidates within Ezekia, Andrew?
Yeah, that's already there. We're improving it on a monthly basis, but today you can search by candidates like this. We're introducing a new vector database next month, which will improve that radically. But yeah, you can already find candidates using AI on Ezekia, but will improve over the coming months.
I've got a question here about your product roadmap. Is the ability to provide AI-driven buyer intent signals for business development purposes, is that something which you're going to be looking at on your product roadmap?
This is Q1 of next year, where we're introducing effectively an agentic framework behind the scenes of Ezekia.
Yeah.
And so you'll be able to design your own agents, and then mirror your business process, which includes signals and intents. So whenever, for example, say a project reaches 80% probability that you're going to win that project, then behind the scenes, your AI agent can be signaled and triggered to say, okay, let's start getting the contracts team involved, or let's start doing some, due diligence around this. So the agentic framework is on the roadmap, yeah.
And how do you decide which of these tools goes into Ezekia versus partnering with external tools?
Great question. We're never going to be experts at everything. So I mentioned Hello Sky earlier. They're experts at taking disparate data sources or the internet, and you've got to be careful with data. So the entire internet, for example, how many hundreds of millions of profiles are on LinkedIn? 900 million more. I don't know.
Andrew, what's your philosophy in general? When you look at Ezekia as a platform, is your philosophy, let's partner with organizations wherever we can, rather than trying to build it into our product? Is that your approach?
Where it makes sense, we build it in. Where there are other experts, we partner with them. But Ezekia, we've designed to be an open platform. So so you have a choice. You can use what we offer, or you can take a third-party offering and integrate that tightly within Ezekia.
And Angel, what about clients who say, well, we don't want AI anywhere near our candidate selection or sourcing? Can they kind of be protected from the AI?
They are actually already protected. If they don't want, they don't have to use it. Actually, their data is not exposed it anyway. We just migrate it inside Ezekia in our system. But if they want it private, it stays private.
You can disable the AI, yes.
Yeah.
You can effectively disable it quite simply.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Has anybody tried sort of using the AI tool to create a shortlist? And what experience have you seen from that, Andrew?
Yes, so within Ezekia, you would just use a candidate search to find your list and then populate it. But again, there are third parties out there. Again, I mention them again just because they're working with many of our customers. Hello Sky, they will create a shortlist using AI for you and inject it directly into Ezekia. There are other firms like Sourcewell, they also integrate with us quite heavily. So there are many firms out there who specialize in specific industry sectors who will create a shortlist for you and then inject it directly into Ezekia. But you can do it within Ezekia yourself. You can, do your search across your existing database of known candidates and create shortlists that way.
But I imagine that in the future, we could be having a call like this with a client, where we're talking about the requirements for the job, we're talking about the industry, we're talking about the company. As you said earlier, in the background, there's an AI tool that's analyzing the conversation, and potentially by the time we get to the end of the conversation, the AI tool is say, well, we've looked at our internal data sources, and here's your top 5 people for the shortlist.
Exactly. That's the goal. That's what I'd like to see happening. Yeah.
And is there research being done in that area? I mean, how far along are we on that journey?
That's all there. It's just a case of there's a lot of plumbing to do. There's a lot to happen still. So you have AI that listens to a conversation, but it's not real time yet. So it's just a case of some of these technologies improving slightly, and then somebody making the effort to plumb it all together in order for that to happen.
And do we know how accurate it is or how good it is at this stage?
Well, the transcription ones, the note takers you see, and they're very accurate. You tell it how to summarize the call, and it'll come back with an excellent summary of that call. It knows what not to include. It knows if you're talking about your family or your pet or the weather. It just ignores that, and these things happen already. It knows what's important information, and it cuts out the
I'm
rest.
thinking particularly about compiling a shortlist, using AI to compile a shortlist, and does it produce a good shortlist, or are we not there yet?
No, you're there yet. I mean, AI is actually very good at analyzing people and patterns across multiple people. That's what AI is good at, and it can create a shortlist for you. You give it the data, you upload 10, 20, 30 candidates, to upload the job description, and it will tell you which is the best candidate quite accurately.
Okay. I mean, I'm kind of thinking ahead a bit. I'm thinking like actually, you just tell the AI tool to go out there and look at 1 billion candidates on LinkedIn and come up with a short list of 5. But there's another question here about the not the candidate generation, but actually the candidate engagement.
Yeah.
So once you're building relationships with the candidate, can you see how AI is going to impact that candidate relationship, that candidate engagement?
The power of AI is working with a lot of information at the same time and processing a lot of information, which is impossible for a human brain. And I just want to make something here. When we speak about the AI at the moment, we're mostly speaking about large language models because there are different types of AI. So what large language models do? They analyze enormous amounts of information.
Yeah.
They make some correlations and some analysis. And so in this manner, when you interact with the candidate, if you want to engage him, the power of large language models, they can suggest what you can do, some actions. They can suggest, for example, call this guy, or just send him a note, send him an email, or something like this, depending on past experience generated from 30, 35 years of data. So this is going to be the way to go.
And that's already there. I would say you are right. It's the way to go, but it's already there in its infancy. So you can already sentiment analysis. So the ability to look at a person and for AI behind the scenes to quickly tell you how warm or how cold that relationship is based on how often you've engaged, what you engaged about, what were the response. That's there already. Yeah. And then on top of that, you want to look at automation. So to analyze that information and to automatically create reminders to get in touch. These kind of things are there on the immediate horizon.
So the AI can make sure that I'm looking after this candidate in the way that he or she wants to be looked after.
Yeah, they'll understand. So some people don't like phone calls. Some people prefer to text. So AI is good at saying, here's 20 people. These are the ones you should call. These are the ones you should send a text to, and these are the ones you need to send an email to based on past preferences. Yeah.
There's a question here about AI replacing the external executive search firm, and if we think that's going to happen. I mean, this is a very personal question. I don't know. Angel, what do you think? Is the potential there for AI to replace parts of the executive search industry, do you think, or the executive search firm altogether?
My personal opinion is that executive search is never going to be replaced by AI. It's going to be changed, as I mentioned before, because now the AI tools are coming up a lot. So the executive researchers, they'll have to use more and more AI tools. Also, candidates are using AI at the moment, so they're tailoring their resumes, their interaction as well. This should be taken into consideration as well, because when you interact with a candidate, you should keep in mind that this candidate also uses AI, which is uh, tailoring the interactions and all the emails this candidate sends, all phone calls, everything. So he's been advised by an AI. So the profession is going to change. But my personal opinion is that the final decision is always going to be by a human.
Yeah.
And culture fit is one thing that AI can't do at the moment. So culture fit is the feeling you get when you walk into a company and you sense how that company is run. What's the vibe, if you like, of that company? So we're a long way from that. AI can't measure that very easily, and certainly you need your experts for that.
I mean, I think the point is that the search process might be a lot quicker. It might be a lot smoother, but we're not going to eliminate the executive search firm. Is that what you're saying, Andrew?
I think so, yes. I think you should see savings and costs, quicker time to fill. These are the goals that you should be aiming for, not to replace a firm, but to improve efficiency. Look at your operations, what's broken. AI won't solve things by itself. You have to fix those, and then AI can optimize, a process for you.
Yeah. There's a great question here from John talking about transcription, and many researchers still write notes as a way to help encode the conversation in memory for richer and more personal interpretation. Is this sort of Luddite behavior, and is there a solution?
No, it's not. I mean, sorry, I'm just saying. I mean, I use AI all the time, but I still write notes. I think, like Angel, like we've been saying, is we're trying to use AI where it makes sense. But there's many things you shouldn't be using AI for. Like exactly that. It's trying encoding information. I wouldn't use AI for writing an email. Personally, because that's just, to me, is wrong. I wouldn't write it for a presentation, for anything like preparing for this. Yeah, I would never use AI, because to me that needs to be coming from you, and not from a machine that's just regurgitating the thoughts of many millions of people.
If it's an AI generated CV, an AI generated LinkedIn, or an AI generated email, generally I recognize it as such, and for me it lacks warmth. It just lacks warmth. Therefore, I'm less likely to engage with it.
But what you want to use AI for is, you still want to use transcription, because you want to keep your system up to date. You want to have that fully automated. So, because AI, if you give it bad data or no data, so say you don't enter the transcribed information, then it can't give you good data out. So yeah, go ahead, rewrite the notes yourself. But certainly you need to use AI to get the data into your platform in order for your whole process to work more efficiently.
And Angel, can you just tell us, are firms today using AI for business development? And in what way are firms using AI, if they are?
I think this question is more for Andrew. He has more observations.
Yeah, so I've had many conversations with firms about business development in AI, and as you know, with the Ezekia, we take that feedback, we build it into a roadmap. So you'll find a lot of our new features in the next month are around about business development insights.
Yep.
And so that will give you sentiment analysis scores. It will give you next actions. It will talk about your recent engagers, how this client prefers to be engaged. It will give you these AI insights into your clients, into your projects. It will say, this group of candidates you are ignoring for whatever reason.
Okay.
You need to get in touch. So that's all happening now.
Okay, so people are doing that, and you're building that at the moment into
That's almost in testing now. Yeah.
Okay, great. Are you looking at the use of AI to analyze personalities to help not just in soft candidate matching to team profiles, but also prepping consultants for the style of customer contact to improve the human interaction?
Excellent question. So this is about I think this is still a bit away where you analyze, say, videos. So we're not yet there for real-time analysis of videos, so that you could get the questions in front of you as you're talking to the candidate.
Sure.
AI analyzing. So that's we're not quite there yet, but certainly you can use AI to take the transcript of an interview and then give you a summary of that, and then suggest follow-up questions. Maybe highlight issues with their personality fit to the company. So it's not there in real time
There's a
yet.
particular reference here, Andrew, to Crystal Nose and something called Humantic.ai.
These are not two products I'm particularly familiar with. I can certainly look into them and answer one-to-one of that person if we need to.
Yeah. Okay, so that's not something that's kind of in the near to medium term then.
Well, these are third party. There are literally hundreds of these third party services out there, and I'm not aware of them all.
Question here about the EU AI Act. How is this going to impact Ezekia?
We don't know yet, but as you know, with Ezekia, we adopted the GDPR early on. We have very strong GDPR tools to help you manage GDPR. Right to forget, subject access requests, it's all there. And so as soon as we know what we need to do as a company, then we will be quick to adopt those on the platform. We'll provide the tools. We won't police you, but we'll certainly provide you the tools for your own business decisions and processes.
Angel, do you have any idea sort of who at the search firm at the moment is making decisions about managing AI innovation and deployment, and who should be in charge of managing AI innovation and deployment?
Well, that's a great question. It depends on a lot of factors because there are different sizes of search firms. There are some people who are responsible for technology implementations in these search firms, and usually these are the people who are responsible. But for a small search firm, let's say 5 or 6 people, usually they have one person, which is the techie one, who is responsible for everything, for data migration, for implementing new technologies. So yes,
what about in the bigger firms?
You usually find within the technology sector of the bigger firm, they're the ones that are obviously day to day dealing with AI recruitment, for example, and so therefore they're the ones that better understand the AI landscape and are driving some of these changes internally.
And they should be mucking about with it anyway. They should be playing.
Oh yeah, they should be. They should be. Yeah, we're still at that early stage.
Yeah. Question here: do we have any data on the percentage of searches that have been successfully concluded with AI found candidates?
No, I personally don't. That's a very interesting one to find out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think AI is probably helping in that candidate identification process, but it would be stupid just to hand it over full stop.
I don't know if that's the actual question. Sorry, Angel.
Yeah, it's not still determined yet because it's a developing process. Search firms are using AI, but to what extent it helped them to place candidates, it cannot be said that it's this percentage or this percentage because it's still there are a lot of human interaction with the help of AI. So it's still to be determined.
I would say the majority of searches use AI in some form. Now, what could that be? It could be a note taking, it could be transcription, it could be summarizing profiles, it could be summarizing the job description and using it to match. So I would say, certainly on Ezekia, for the firms that use AI, then I would say it affects or impacts all searches. But, can you claim that AI then found the candidate? Then the answer is no, not yet. I don't think so.
There's a question here about integrating with companies like Ring Central. I have no idea what Ring Central is or what they do.
It's a VoIP system, yeah. So that's the ability for, when a call comes in, it can look up Ezekia, for example, and find that person on your system. When you're talking to them, all their notes will appear. And I guess from this perspective, they then want that phone call to be transcribed. That's something that can be done. It's not something that we personally, Ezekia, would do because it requires the VoIP provider to do that integration. But we have the API to do it if that's what they want to do.
Okay, but the way that your development process works, Andrew, is you're listening to hundreds of such firms all the time, and you're getting queries from them, or you're having discussions about their business problems, and you're kind of constantly reprioritizing your development list, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. So Ezekia is not a version product. So you don't get Ezekia 1.0, Ezekia 2.0. And we don't get summer release, winter release, or autumn release either. I mean, we release our updates on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And so you'll see in our roadmap that we publish once a month, what's been released in the last month, what's coming in the next 3 months.
So
That's constantly
it's a
changing.
constant evolution, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
that's right. So the roadmap 6 months ago is very different to the roadmap today, just simply
okay. So
because AI is more
you've got a
prominent.
dynamic roadmap effectively, which is being driven by what your clients are telling you that they're interested in.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And somebody here is asking about analyzing calls and producing next steps, but I think you already touched on that technology effectively exists today.
Yes, there's transcription, but in the phone call side of things, that still requires a VoIP provider like RingCentral to kind of integrate their data into us. But certainly Zoom calls, which is, or team calls, these are already can be transcribed and injected automatically into Ezekia. And then you can use AI within Ezekia to analyze those calls quite easily. So that's all there, and very soon you'll be able to then analyze them from a sentiment point of view. Was it a good call? Was it a bad call? What are the next steps? What questions should I ask this candidate next?
Angel, you were talking earlier about, some of these firms have like a records going back 35 years, maybe. Presumably, then the AI tools that are coming down the pipe will be able to analyze some of that data and give them guidance on maybe past client relationships that have been dormant for a while, or where somebody's moved around and was a former client in the past. I mean, how much are we using AI today to support the business development? And is that going to be more and more in the future?
We are just starting using it for business development, as Andrew mentioned a few times already. The data we have and we migrate into Ezekia is being used if our clients wants to, of course. For the future, it's going to be more and more, as we're expecting.
I think data hygiene, especially when they've got such data spanning decades, I think data hygiene is a core issue.
I was going to mention that some of this data is obsolete. Something which was relevant 30 years ago is not necessarily relevant now. AI can help in identifying this as well. So some very useful skills in the 80s or the 90s of the past century, not relevant at all at the moment. This also needs to be taken into consideration. So regarding business development, as Andrew mentioned, data hygiene is very important, but it's already happening. So it's going to be more and more.
Okay. There's a couple of questions here around LinkedIn, and I'm not sure the extent to which AI tools can be used to sort of analyze LinkedIn profiles and look at the totality of the profile and matching that person against a spec. Is that something which is already happening?
That's already there. Yeah. So there are third-party services that already do that. They have access to the 100 million LinkedIn profiles, the public versions anyway. They have access to Crunchbase and PitchBook or wherever it might be. These are usually paid services where, they aggregate all this public information. Some of it's paid information, subscribed information. They aggregate that and then we'll analyze use that data using AI. That's already out there.
Okay. I mean, is that something that's very well developed? I mean, or is that its infancy?
No, I think that's well understood now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. There's a good, interesting question here. What are the chances that AI might make a mistake and fail to select a candidate who could actually be a good fit for a specific role? I guess
very high.
Garbage out. If you don't
yeah. It's very hhigh. It's AI does make mistakes, and you have to allow it to make mistakes, otherwise it gets too rigid. So that's the strength. In the old days, you would use a keyword, and it'd be a very kind of binary yes no, is this person has this keyword or not. With AI, you need to allow it to make mistakes in order to first of all find candidates that you might not have found before. But on the flip side, you might miss a candidate as a result of that as well.
Yeah. Okay. There's a question here: should the AI tool have a seat at the table in the search committee? I guess with the search committee, you've got maybe the CEO, you've got maybe the CHRO, you've got maybe the researcher, the partner from the search firm. You might have a group of people on the board who are part of the search committee. What's the role you see for AI in that situation?
Very good question. At the moment, the only thing that it can provide is stable is providing objective data.
Yeah.
Not a decision making.
It can analyze the conversation and give you a summary of the conversation.
It can do that, but it can't reason. It can't. AI is not reasoning yet. It's not it won't come up with a new strategy, for example, based on what
No.
it's hearing now.
Yeah. And there's a question here where somebody's asking about, what happens to competitive advantage when every firm has got access to the same tools. But I guess the reality is that there's always going to be some firms that are further ahead on the curve.
Yes, and I think that's important right now. I mean, if you want the competitive advantage, it is to, like say, upskill your team, play around with these tools, experiment, and make sure that you understand what's happening with AI. I mean, the hype is over in one sense. People realize it's not taking over the world as such, but they do realize that it can really make you much more efficient than you already are, and make your operations side, automate that a lot more than it already is. So that will be your advantage. If you can close searches quicker, then you're going to, that's going to go in your favor, and so forth. But
I guess
think
what you need to be doing as a firm is you need to be staying abreast of this stuff. You need to be deploying technology, and you need to be looking at the tools that are out there and making sure that you are innovating wherever you can.
Yeah, or partner with us, and we'll do that for you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, you got to choose your technology partner basically in that context, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. I mean, like I say, there are some firms there's some well-documented failures in AI already where they've tried to do a whole-scale infrastructure change and not received any kind of return on their investment there. So yeah, you still have to be careful for sure.
There's a question here about the AI firms themselves and whether they've actually, whether you've had conversations with them about how they're using the technology. But I guess they don't have those conversations with you.
No.
They're not sharing, definitely.
No, they're not sharing that stuff. No, I'm sure they've got better things to do. And if you have one thing that you think, Andrew, that maybe is a big surprise that people aren't going to anticipate, where do you see that coming from?
I think it's how we engage with software. I mean, that's a bit vague, but I don't see us in 5 years being tied to our computer screen like we are today. And I think that will be one of the big disruptions. AI will be in the background, a bit like Alexa, if you like, in your kitchen, or Siri on your phone. And it will just engage with your life, and a lot of the stuff that you're forced to sit in front of a computer today and input that data or review that data, a lot of that should hopefully, I would hope certainly, would start going away.
Angel, can I ask you the same question?
Yeah, of course.
What big thing do you see that we haven't really thought about, that people haven't anticipated today?
I'll be a little more bold. I think that brain implants are closer than we expect, and at some point we're going to start using them, maybe closer than we anticipate, because these things are going to work. And there are a lot of people who are just willing to accept them and to use them, and they're going to change totally the way we interact with everything.
Okay. Gentlemen, listen, it's been a fantastic discussion, really, really fascinating. I'm sure we could talk for hours, and there's lots and lots of questions. Andrew, if people want to get in touch with you afterwards, it's andrew@ezekia.com?
Yes.
Or angel@ezekia.com, yeah?
Yes.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Fantastic, really, really good discussion. Thank you also to Hunt Scanlon Media for hosting us today. And there are more events from Hunt Scanlon Media, so keep an eye open, and there'll be lots more webinars for you to join it. But thank you very much, everybody.
No, thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.